Mr. Carter, I found something disturbing in your daughter's wedding photographs. Those words stopped me cold. It had been exactly 1 month since my daughter Emily had walked down the aisle. 1 month since I had spent nearly $70,000 giving her the wedding she had always dreamed about. And now a stranger was telling me there was something hidden inside those photographs. Please come alone, the photographer whispered. And whatever you do, don't tell your daughter. I stared at the phone in my hand. For 40 years I had built my life brick by brick. I owned 3 hardware stores, had a comfortable home in Paradise Valley, and had spent most of my adult life believing that providing for my family was what a good father was supposed to do. But sometimes, the people you sacrifice everything for become the very people who learn how to take everything from you. Before I continue, if you've ever experienced betrayal from someone you trusted, subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Because what I discovered that morning changed the way I looked at my entire family. The photographer Lauren Mitchell had called while I was sitting at my kitchen table reviewing business numbers. From upstairs, my younger daughter, Megan, was complaining loudly about her car. My Honda is embarrassing. Dad promised me a new one. Her boyfriend Tyler was stretched across my recliner, laughing at something on television. He had been living in my house for 4 years. No rent. No serious job. No plans. Just excuses. I barely heard any of it anymore. Mr. Carter? Lauren said. I'm here. I can't explain this over the phone. Please trust me. I'll come. That evening, Emily arrived unexpectedly. She walked into my house wearing an expensive blazer and the confident smile of someone who already believed she knew exactly how much she could get from me. Dad, Mark and I found an incredible house in Scottsdale. I felt my stomach tighten. How much? $40,000 for the down payment. She said it casually. $40,000. After everything I had already paid for the wedding. I'll think about it, I told her. Her smile disappeared. She hugged me without warmth and left. I stood at the doorway watching her car disappear. For the first time I wondered something I had never allowed myself to wonder before. Was my daughter asking for help? Or was she simply calculating how much more she could take? The next morning, before sunrise, I drove downtown to Lauren's studio. I had no idea that within the next hour, I would see a photograph that would expose a betrayal far bigger than an affair. It would reveal a plan that had been forming around me while I was still proudly calling these people my family. Lauren's studio smelled like coffee, printer ink, and nervousness. She looked different from the woman who had photographed Emily's wedding. During the ceremony, she had been calm and professional. Now, she looked genuinely uncomfortable. I almost didn't call you, she said. I sat across from her desk. Then why did you? She turned her monitor toward me. Because if I were in your position, I'd want to know. The first images were beautiful. Emily walking down the aisle. Mark smiling beside her. Family members laughing. Champagne glasses raised during the reception. Everything looked perfect. Then Lauren opened another folder. This was taken accidentally. My eyes narrowed. The photograph showed the side of the venue. 2 hours before the ceremony. There was Mark. His tuxedo shirt was only partially buttoned. His arms were wrapped around a red-haired woman. But it wasn't an innocent embrace. His hands were buried in her hair. Her face was pressed against his chest. And on her finger was a wedding ring. My throat went dry. That's Mark? Lauren nodded. I enlarged it. She opened another image. Then another. Different angles. Same woman. Same man. Same secret. There's more, Lauren said. She pulled up the metadata. Exact timestamps. GPS coordinates. Everything documented. This wasn't manipulated? No. Could someone argue the pictures were taken at a different time? No. She looked directly into my eyes. These photographs are extremely difficult to dispute. She handed me a flash drive. I thought you deserved to have the evidence. I took it. My fingers felt strangely numb. On the drive home, one question kept repeating inside my head. Why would Mark marry Emily if he was already involved with another woman? Then, another thought came. Money. The wedding had cost almost $70,000. Emily had insisted on cash gifts. No registry. No unnecessary restrictions, she had told me. We need flexibility. I remembered the amount she had bragged about afterward. Nearly $50,000 in cash and checks. My business partner alone had given them $15,000. That evening, I pulled up the records. My own $20,000 wedding gift had been deposited into a joint account. Emily and Mark had opened it only 2 months before the wedding. Not years earlier. Not after their engagement. 2 months. I stared at the screen. My hands began to tremble. Then I heard voices upstairs. Megan. She was on speakerphone. I quietly approached the stairs. Dad looks suspicious lately. She laughed. But don't worry. Tyler and I can stretch this another 6 months. My heart stopped. Then Tyler laughed. He'll buy us a condo eventually. Megan lowered her voice. He always caves. I stood completely still. Then Emily's voice came through the phone. Calm. Cold. Calculated. I only need 2 more months of pretending to be the happy wife. My stomach turned. Then I file for divorce, Emily continued. Half the wedding money becomes mine. I backed away from the stairs. For years I had believed I was protecting my daughters. Now I realized something horrifying. They had been studying me, learning exactly how to manipulate me. And suddenly, I knew what I had to do. I barely slept that night. I sat alone in my office with the wedding photographs spread across the desk. My daughter's wedding. My money. My home. My businesses. My entire life. And somehow, I had become nothing more than a financial resource to the people I loved. I opened my laptop and searched for an attorney. The next morning I met Daniel Brooks, an experienced property and estate attorney. I placed everything in front of him. The photographs, the bank records, my notes, and the conversation I had overheard. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he leaned back. You have a difficult situation. I know. But legally, you have options. He explained that Megan and Tyler had no lease and had been living in my home for years without paying rent. I could legally begin the process of removing them. Then we discussed my estate, my savings, my businesses, my property, everything I had spent decades building. Daniel looked at me. If you want to protect your assets, we can establish an irrevocable trust. How difficult would it be to challenge? Much more difficult than a simple will. I didn't hesitate. Let's do it. He paused. You understand this could permanently damage your relationship with your daughters? I looked down at my hands. They damaged that relationship themselves. I signed. The total cost was thousands of dollars. For once, I didn't care. That Friday evening I returned home to find Megan and Tyler sitting on my couch. Tyler was holding a laptop. He smiled. Good timing. I wanted to show you something. A business proposal? He nodded. A craft brewery. I only need $30,000 to get started. I almost laughed. Instead, I placed 2 envelopes on the coffee table. Megan opened hers. Her face went pale. Tyler stopped smiling. What is this? Your eviction notice. Tyler stood. This is our home. I looked directly at him. No, it's mine. We've lived here for 4 years. And you haven't paid rent for 4 years. Silence 30 days, I said. Megan started crying. You're throwing your own daughter out? No, I looked at her. I'm asking an adult to leave a property that belongs to me. Behind my office door that night I heard them making phone calls. Emily, Mark, everyone was suddenly involved. They weren't discussing how to repair the family. They were discussing how to stop me. Over the next few days every tactic appeared. Megan suddenly became sick. Tyler started making threats about what neighbors would think. A brewery proposal appeared on my kitchen counter. The requested amount had somehow increased from $30,000 to $50,000. I threw it away. Then Emily and Mark came over for dinner. They acted concerned. They cooked in my kitchen. They smiled. And eventually, Emily said the words I had been expecting. Dad, maybe it's time to think about selling the house. I looked at her. Why? You're getting older. She smiled. A smaller condo might be easier. I finally understood. They weren't worried about my future. They were planning their own. That night, I called Daniel. They're coordinating to acquire my assets. Then we accelerate everything, he said. I changed my beneficiaries, removed my daughters, protected what I had built. For the first time in years, I wasn't afraid of disappointing them. I was afraid of disappointing myself. 2 weeks later, I set the dining table with the finest china in the house. 5 plates, 5 glasses, and 1 manila folder. Inside that folder were photographs capable of destroying the perfect family image they had worked so hard to maintain. I invited Megan, Tyler, Emily, and Mark to dinner. They arrived confident. Too confident. They whispered together in the living room as though they were planning a business meeting. They still believed they had leverage. They didn't know that the rules had already changed. Dinner began quietly. Small talk. Fake smiles. Questions about business. Then Emily slowly steered the conversation toward the house. "Dad," she said gently, "have you thought any more about selling?" I put my fork down. "No," she sighed. "You really should consider your future." "My future?" "Yes," she smiled. "You shouldn't be living alone in such a big house." There it was again. Concern disguised as appetite. I reached for the manila folder, then slid it across the table. "Before we discuss my future, I think we should discuss yours." Emily opened the folder. The first photograph appeared. Her husband, Mark, his arms around another woman. Her smile vanished. Mark reached for the photograph. His face went white. "What is this?" "Your wedding photographer took them." Emily stared at him. "You said there was no one else." Mark couldn't answer. I placed another photograph on the table. Then another. Finally, I looked at Emily. "I also heard your phone conversation." Her expression changed. "What conversation?" "The one where you said you only needed 2 more months of pretending to be the happy wife." Nobody moved. I continued. "You said you planned to file for divorce and claim half the wedding money." Megan stared at the table. Tyler shifted in his chair. Emily's voice became sharp. "You were spying on me?" "No." I shook my head. "I was standing in my own house." Then I leaned back. "You weren't careful enough." Mark suddenly stood. "This is ridiculous." "No," I said quietly. "This is the truth." I opened another document. "I've established an irrevocable trust." Mark froze. "Your business, property, savings, and other major assets are protected." Emily's eyes widened. "You can't do that." "I already did." She slammed her hand onto the table. "After everything we've done for you?" I almost laughed. "Everything you've done for me?" The room went silent. "You mean living in my house? Using my money? Planning how to take my property?" Nobody answered. I stood. "Megan. Tyler. You have 15 days. Megan began shouting. Tyler accused me of destroying the family. Emily started crying. Mark blamed everyone except himself. I folded my napkin. "You didn't destroy this family tonight." I looked at all 4 of them. "You simply discovered that I finally stopped funding it." Then I walked into my office. Behind me, their voices erupted. But for the first time, their anger couldn't reach me. The final 2 weeks felt like psychological warfare. Every morning brought another attempt to make me surrender. My coffee maker mysteriously shattered. Megan told the neighbors that I had become cruel and unstable. Tyler blocked my car in the garage and tried to intimidate me. "You're going to regret this," he said. I looked at him. "I already regret 4 years of letting you stay." He moved aside. Then Emily arrived with a psychologist. She introduced the woman as someone who was concerned about my recent behavior. I stared at both of them. "Leave." Emily's smile disappeared. "Dad, we're trying to help." "No," I pointed toward the door. "You're trying to make me doubt myself." They left. But Megan had one final weapon. Tears. She stood in front of me one evening. "I'm sorry." Her voice cracked. "I'll be the daughter you deserve." I looked at her. For a moment, the father inside me wanted to believe her. Then I remembered the laughter I had heard upstairs. Dad looked suspicious. "He'll cave. He always does." I said quietly, "I heard you." Her tears stopped. "What?" "You laughing with Emily about manipulating me." Her expression changed instantly. The loving daughter disappeared. "Fine," she snapped. "Don't expect us to care what happens to you." She walked away. And somehow, that hurt less than the tears. Because finally, I knew the truth. On the 30th day, I pulled into my driveway. A sheriff's deputy was behind me. Daniel Brooks stepped out of his car. Inside the house, nothing had been packed. Pizza boxes. Beer cans. Clothes scattered everywhere. They had spent 30 days trying to change my mind instead of preparing to leave. The deputy explained they had 2 hours to collect their personal belongings. Megan began sobbing. Tyler cursed under his breath. He called me an ungrateful old man. I said nothing. There was nothing left to explain. When they finally carried their bags toward the driveway, Megan turned around. "You'll regret this." I looked at her. "When you need help, don't come crying to us." "I won't." And I meant it. That evening, the house was silent. For the first time in 4 years, I could hear the clock in the hallway. 3 days later, Mark sent me a message from an unknown number. He admitted Emily had known about his affair. The entire marriage had been part of their plan. They had intended to collect the wedding money, manipulate the divorce, and divide the proceeds. Then he made one final offer. Give me $10,000 and I'll stay quiet. I deleted the message, blocked the number. I didn't need revenge anymore. The truth was already destroying their plan. And sometimes, the most powerful response to manipulation is simply refusing to participate. Part 6. The price of their plan. Weeks passed. The divorce between Emily and Mark moved forward, but it didn't unfold the way they had planned. The money they expected to divide disappeared into legal expenses. The wedding gifts they had counted on were no longer available to them. The future they had carefully calculated became increasingly uncertain. Then Emily called me. Her voice was different. Not angry. Not confident. Desperate, Dad. I said nothing. I need $20,000. I closed my eyes. There was a time when I would have asked what happened. I would have offered more than she requested. I would have written a check before she finished speaking. But that version of me was gone. What for? My divorce settlement. Silence. Then she said the words she probably expected would break me. Please. I stared out the window. The same window through which I had watched my daughters grow up. The same house where I had once believed family meant unconditional trust. No. One word. That was all. Dad. No. I hung up. Then I sat there for several minutes. I expected guilt. Instead, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. A few days later, Daniel called. The trust is fully filed. Everything? Everything. My businesses were protected. My property was protected. My savings were protected. My future was mine again. But the biggest change wasn't financial. It was emotional. I had finally stopped measuring my worth by how much I could give other people. For 40 years I had believed being a good father meant solving every problem. Need a car? Dad will handle it. Need tuition? Dad will handle it. Need wedding money? Dad will handle it. Need a house? Dad will handle it. Need another $50,000 for a business idea? Dad will handle it. Until one day, I realized something. They weren't asking whether I could afford it. They were asking whether they could get away with it. That distinction changed everything. 3 weeks after the eviction, I sat on my terrace with a cup of coffee. The morning sun slowly climbed over Paradise Valley. Birds moved through the trees. There were no arguments upstairs. No television blasting from the living room. No Tyler demanding something. No Megan complaining. Just silence. Beautiful silence. I looked toward the kitchen. The coffee maker was working again. It was such a small thing. But I smiled. I had replaced it the day after they left. Small victories matter. That Wednesday, I started guitar lessons. Something I had wanted to do for nearly 40 years. I had always told myself I was too busy, too responsible, too needed. Now I had time. On Fridays I volunteered at a senior center. I repaired broken chairs, shelves, and cabinets. And unlike my family, the people there actually said thank you. One afternoon, Lauren, the photographer who had made that phone call, called me. How did everything turn out? I looked across the valley. Good. Then I corrected myself. Actually, better than good. She laughed softly. For the first time in years, I'm genuinely happy. And that was when I realized something. The revenge wasn't that they lost my money. The revenge wasn't that their scheme failed. The revenge wasn't watching their carefully constructed plan collapse. The real victory was getting my life back. My daughters believed I had destroyed our family. For a while I wondered if they were right. Maybe I had been too harsh. Maybe I should have forgiven them. Maybe a father was supposed to keep giving, no matter how badly his children treated him. But then I remembered the photographs, the conversations, the calculations, the way they had discussed my money as if it were already theirs. And I understood. I hadn't destroyed my family. I had simply stopped allowing my family to destroy me. Emily eventually called again. I didn't answer. Megan left a voicemail. I listened once, then deleted it. Tyler sent angry messages. I deleted those too. Mark disappeared from my life completely. And honestly, that was fine. Not every relationship deserves to be repaired. Some relationships are lessons. Some are warnings. And some are simply doors you finally learn to close. Months earlier, I had thought my greatest responsibility was protecting my daughters from hardship. Now I understood that I had accidentally protected them from consequences. Every time I rescued them, I taught them that someone else would pay the price. Every time I said yes when I wanted to say no, I taught them that my boundaries didn't matter. Every time I handed over another check, I made exploitation easier. That was my mistake. But I refused to repeat it. One morning, I sat on the terrace with my guitar beside me. The sun was rising over the valley. The house was quiet. Not empty. Quiet. There is a difference. I thought about the man I had been before that photographer called. A man who believed love meant sacrifice. A man who believed saying no made him selfish. A man who had spent 40 years building something and was willing to hand it away just to keep everyone else happy. Then I thought about who I was now. Older, wiser, less afraid. And finally, free. Lauren had once told me that she wasn't sure what I would do after seeing those photographs. Neither did I. But maybe the photographs didn't ruin my family. Maybe they revealed it. They showed me what words had hidden. They showed me who people really were when they thought I wasn't watching. And that truth, painful as it was, saved me. Justice, I learned, isn't always dramatic. Sometimes there is no courtroom, no revenge speech, no triumphant applause. Sometimes justice is simply locking your front door after the people who exploited you leave. Sometimes it's protecting what you built. Sometimes it's saying no and refusing to explain yourself. Sometimes it's waking up in the morning and realizing you no longer feel afraid of disappointing people who never cared about disappointing you. I finished my coffee. The guitar was waiting inside. So was the rest of my life. And this time, it belonged entirely to me. If this story gave you chills, hit the like button, subscribe to Ruthless Karma, and tell me in the comments, what would you have done if you discovered your own family was secretly planning to take everything you built? And remember, sometimes the strongest revenge isn't hurting the people who hurt you. It's becoming completely free from them.